Welcome to Missing Briefs, where we unveil the untold business stories of lawyers, their triumphs, and their trials. I'm Dominic Grew, the founder and owner of Elevate Business Coaching, a Boston based firm specializing in working with law firms and their lawyers to build, manage, and grow successful practices. And with me is
Bob Furlong. I'm a certified exit planner, and I work with partners to help implement strategies to attract and retain their best associates. This creates a clear path for the retirement so they don't have to work forever.
So Missing Briefs. What's it all about? Well, it's really about exploring and narrating the compelling stories or briefs of lawyers who have experienced significant challenges and successes in the business of law. What was their gap? What were they missing? What do they wish they'd known? Well, it's our pleasure today to welcome Ellen Sullivan. Ellen is the founder and owner of Cambridge Immigration Law, a Cambridge, Massachusetts-based immigration firm that provides expert legal guidance for those seeking green cards, citizenship, and other immigration benefits. Ellen, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Dom. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing just great. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
So, Ellen, we can't wait to hear your whole story, but I always like to start with something, fairly basic. It was, at what point did you decide you wanted to become a lawyer? What was the genesis?
Well, I remember that I had been out of school for about 3 years and I was teaching in an elementary school in Los Angeles through the program Teach for America. And I didn't want to stay in Los Angeles just because my family was here in Massachusetts, but I loved it there. And honestly, I don't really know where the idea came from. I think I didn't know what I was going to do. And so going to law school became an idea.
That's cool. And how did, out of all the different types of law you could practice, what caused you to focus on immigration?
Well, I do think it had to do with teaching in Los Angeles. I worked in a school that served a population of people from a lot of Central American countries, Mexico. The students were either first generation immigrants or a lot of their family members were. And just learning about their lives in a really intimate way that I hadn't before with so many different people. And learning how their lives are really different and more challenged in most cases if they weren't born in the United States, and then if they were in the United States without immigration status. So, and then building on my background, my grandparents on my dad's side were from Ireland. And when my grandmother came, she experienced different types of discrimination that Irish people don't really experience now. But certainly it was something that resonated with me when I saw how a lot of the students and their families dealt with life in the US if they weren't born here in the United States.
Wow, that's so interesting. I love having these discussions with people because you always learn stuff. So I didn't know, Ellen, that you've previously been a school teacher, that you lived out in California. And as you relay that all back, it makes perfect sense, right? You'd experienced working with different communities, people who were new to the United States, and that probably influenced the practice area that you're in today. And
Yeah.
Once again, we're all immigrants in some shape or form. Some more recent than others, but still, it's something that's really it's so impactful, the work that immigration lawyers do. But your story is so interesting. I have a million questions for you, but I want you to start with so you become a teacher, you live out in California, you said you're going to become a lawyer, you choose immigration law, uh, and presumably, and I don't know the answer to this or not, did you start out with your own firm? Or did you start at another firm first of all?
I worked at two nonprofits that worked with non-citizen communities, and then I worked in a small firm, and it was somewhat general, but my job was immigration law.
Gotcha. And when you decided to start your own firm, what were some of the challenges that you faced just out of the gate when you started your own firm?
Well, I think confidence was one, not feeling confident. I had just had a baby, which was the reason why I was starting my own firm. The last firm did not treat me well, if you can believe it. So I started my own firm not by choice.
Mhm.
So feeling confident that I could do it, feeling confident that, especially as a new mother, everything I was going through, um, just I was juggling so many things. So that was kind of, I think, one area.
Mhm.
And then another, and I knew that then,
Yeah,
one area that I don't think I knew until too many years later was that I was certainly challenged with running a business.
yeah.
My immigration work was always excellent, and that was never a problem. And I thought that's all it was. And too many years later, I realized that was only part of it. To run a law firm, to support my family, I needed to have good business practices and be profitable. And certainly that was a, hu-
Mhm.
a huge, maybe the biggest challenge that I have now looking back, seeing how I didn't know any of that then.
And how long ago was it that you started your own business?
So I opened my own firm in 2014.
2014. So so
Yeah.
so you're 11 years into your journey right now, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
11 years in as a law firm owner and 20 years as an attorney.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's quite an accomplishment to, both as an attorney, but then also to take that leap, and you're 11 years into it. And what's interesting there is, the catalyst. Your family circumstances were changing. You needed to have a different arrangement, something that worked better for you, and it sounds like that's the reason you started your. That was the motivation that pushed you to make the leap. So,
Yeah.
so that's terrific. So let me ask you this. So you're 11 years into it, and looking back, knowing what you now know, what would you have done differently when you started your firm?
I wish that I had got business coaching right away. What was I thinking that I was going to start a business and know nothing about it, about running a business? So that would be something that probably would have brought in a lot of
Mhm.
other things that I would have done differently. But say I had done that, it probably would have quickly made me hire people to help me in more ways than I did for many, many years. I was thinking too narrowly, like, oh, I can't spend that money, and it's a cliche, but why didn't I think, I need to spend money to make money? And I think I was trying to be too lean, and that just, really constrained my ability to do more as a business, which means helping more people.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of goes back to that thing that you mentioned, like earlier. You mentioned about having confidence, and a lot of folks when they start their own firm, uh, it's scary. It's scary. You're making big decisions that can impact your bottom line, what you take home, and it's important because you got people relying on you to make the right decisions. Uh, so for it's something that a lot of lawyers struggle with, the confidence to actually, you know, push forward on the business, spend in the right areas, even though it can seem overwhelming at times. But when you think back on it, any other things that you learned that for maybe somebody who's listening today, thinking about starting their own practice, that might help them?
Well, I mean, again, get some business coaching right away. Just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you know how to run a business. When I decided I needed to expand, again, for family circumstances, I contacted a friend who had been very successful on his own for many years. And I remember one thing he told me is like, basically, he's like, you just got to do it. Like, this is, I need to support my
Mm-hmm.
family. And he said, I've made so many mistakes. He's like, I've wasted so much money. And you can't be like married to your mistakes. Like you're going to
Yeah.
make mistakes. And I'm not talking like legal mistakes, like
Yeah.
that's sort of a different realm.
Yes.
I'm talking business mistakes. And just try things out, make decisions, and then, if they work, move on with them. And if they don't, move on
Yeah.
without them.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think people really just you can't perseverate about every decision. You just have to try things, see how they work, and then, assess at some point later.
Yeah.
And if it's not working, move on despite
Yeah.
how much time and money you invested, because you're going to do a lot of things wrong and waste a lot of money. And it's not going to become apparent until afterwards. But then you're going to make
Yeah.
some great decisions that are going to make money.
Yeah, well, I think that's great insight that you just shared there. You know, you're not going to get everything right. Be prepared to take action. Expect that some things are going to go wrong, and that's okay. But don't dwell and move on. I think that's tremendous insight for maybe people that are listening to this. You know, and I'm thinking, well, I wonder if this is something I can do. So thanks so much for sharing that insight with us.
Yeah,
You're
so
welcome.
that's some really great stuff, Ellen. It's, the idea that you have to run the practice as a business because you have responsibilities. The other part is, it's important to understand, be in a position to continue to bring on clients. We're assuming as your practice continues to expand, you're still open to new clients.
Yes.
So, I'm sure there are people that will watch this and think, oh, Ellen would be perfect for this client or that client or this family member or friend. How do you like for that introduction to be made? What works best for you? What's worked historically?
Well, we have an intake team right now, so contacting our phone number is great. The intake team will immediately get people connected with us to set up an initial consultation. So people will meet with an intake attorney, or if they specifically request me, they can meet with me, and that's how we would start. We charge depending on who they're meeting with and the type of consultation. We charge 150 for most meetings, and then meetings with me are 500.
Hmm. So you have an intake team, and could you tell us how do they connect? Should they go through your website? Maybe you can read that off to us.
Yes, so there's a contact form in the website. It'll ask for an email and phone number, and my intake team likes to call people to chat with them and then also to go through some screening questions. So it should be a call. People can call the office. That's 617-714-4375. Or if somebody hasn't my email, like sending anyone in my firm an email, sort of reaching out saying I want to get started, well then we'll just send it to the right place and the right people will give a call.
That's great because I'm sure things when they happen, they're timely and they need to reach somebody. I'm sure often people are under some degree of pressure and it alleviates
Yes,
a little bit of that.
sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't as high pressure. We don't take certain cases like with overnight deadlines.
Oh,
So,
okay. That's
it's
good.
criminal attorneys, like, they probably have 24/7, a lot of those firms in terms of
Sure.
taking people on. Um, our cases are generally less urgent than overnight, but most people feel urgent in that they've identified I need to do something and they want to quickly. And we can see people usually within a business day or two, at least for the consultation.
No, that's great. Well, that was really enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing some of your journey with us, Ellen.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Alan. As always, a great conversation, great insight. Thank you for the work that you do. I love working with immigration attorneys because I'm an immigrant as well. I've been through the process and I know the impact that it can have in people's lives and how difficult a job it can be as well. So thank you. Thank you for all that you and your team do. Thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So you've been listening today to Missing Briefs, where we unveil the untold business stories of lawyers, their triumphs and their trials. If you've got an interesting story to tell about your triumphs and trials of owning your own firm, or perhaps you know somebody else that also has an interesting story, please get in touch with us. I'm Dominic Grew.
And I'm Bob Furlong.
Until we meet again.
Have a great day.